Thank you very much. We're going to talk about a very hot issue, such as cybersecurity, and we have a number of experts with us. The first one I would like to introduce you is Avi Biran. Avi Biran is an engineer. He's built a number of cybersecurity organizations within the Israeli Defense Intelligence. To simplify, we could say that used to be a spy or cyber spy or something like that. You can explain us later something else about your former job. But fortunately, he stepped out of the army some time ago, and he founded a company called Cybersecurity, Cyber Odysseys. He's the CEO, and he deals with companies, and he helps companies to build cyber defense and cyber strategies. And he's also launching a venture capital fund, which will focus on early stage startups in the field of cybersecurity. When I met Avi some years ago, back in 2011, we had the chance to spend 7 weeks in the United States together, traveling around, learning about technology, learning about innovation and about life. And sometime later, we met again in Tel Aviv. We were seated in a bar, sharing a beer. We both had our smartphones on the table, and there was my new iPhone back in 2011, should be an iPhone 3 or 2 or something like that. And then Avi had a 10-year-old Nokia. And I asked him, I mean, he's a techie guy. He's a geek, we could say. And Avi, I mean, do you like me to collect some money among our friends and I'm buying you a smartphone? And then he told me, the smarter the phone, the easier to hack. And he spent some minutes explaining me what he could learn about my life, about my privacy, just because I was using a smartphone. But we became really good friends. We meet every maybe month. And now Avi is using a smartphone. Why is that? I mean, you're not scared about being hacked anymore? Or?
When I'm using a smartphone, first of all, thank you for the introduction, Juanjo. Using a smartphone is part of our life. There is no other way today. And the problem is that most of the big telecom companies doesn't even let you use the old Nokia phones, because you have to be either third generation or up. But using the smartphone today, we should be aware of everything that can be as a consequences of that. So when I'm using my smartphone, I'm using it as everything is transparent. Everything I do will be out there, and I'm taking that into consideration. And if I want something to be concealed, usually I will not use it over the smartphone, or I will use it ciphered or the other way. So it depends if you understand the consequences, if you understand the danger of using a smartphone, but this is part of our life. And all of us need to learn to behave properly and not behave like we heard about the actor in Hollywood who said that Cloud is not safe because her nude picture was online, and she just forgot that she had a backup on her cell phone, on her computer. So we just need to learn how to behave in this new cyberspace.
What do you mean? I mean, just because we are connected, we may be hacked? Is that easy to hack someone?
I think I would divide the world to those who've been hacked and those who already know that they've been hacked, and those who will be hacked again. So as much as we are aware of the danger of being hacked, then the better that we act, the better that we take care of our private information, and not only on our private life, also in big companies with big corporates. We see the same thing. We see that most of the corporates, they are only starting to be aware of the danger, of the reputation danger, and also to the privacy, the data privacy of the customers.
Thank you very much. Karel, welcome to Madrid.
Thank you.
Is it your first time in a bullfight ring?
That's right, that's right.
Do you feel like a full bullfighter?
No, definitely not.
Okay, Karel comes from Silicon Valley. He's a computer scientist, and he's an expert in security. He's a general partner at the Evolution Venture Capital Fund. And most importantly, he's a Kaufman Fellow, like our friend Liz Fleming.
That's right.
The hero and the protagonist of this event. Yeah? So do you think that we fully understand what's cybersecurity and what are the challenges we are facing?
That's a good question. So first of all, let me correct one minor thing. I'm not coming from the Silicon Valley. I come from the Czech Republic, but now our fund is based in Switzerland, in Zurich, and in New York City. IT geek by education, and then I joined after I helped building a company that was a security company. I was CTO of a security company that had helped to secure 150 million users worldwide. I joined the dark side of the force, so to speak, so venture capitalist since then. And cybersecurity, I think it has different aspects to, or different people think cybersecurity are different things. It could be securing consumers, it could be securing businesses, it could be securing nations as well. It's cyber warfare. On one hand, it's securing watches and smartphones and wearables. On the other hand, it's securing desktops. So different things to cybersecurity. I wouldn't say anybody understands what is cybersecurity because different people think or when talking about cybersecurity, it means different things to them. So lots of aspects. I don't see security per se as a vertical. I rather see it as a horizontal. So security nowadays is everywhere. If it's your I don't know, your vest that can have some smart things connected to it, or if it's your phone, if it's your car these days, or healthcare devices, everything is security.
And are we aware enough of the threats we are facing? Because cybersecurity risk?
I think people underestimate the risks. So experts understand there are huge risks. Experts know that whole nations could be brought down by cyber threats, cyber attacks. But the general public does not understand that, underestimates that, and then general public is very often surprised by what's going on, such as the story that you mentioned. I mean, my pictures being stolen or something, or bank information, bank details, cars being hijacked, etc. So I think the time is still to come when people start realizing how dangerous certain things can be, and that we have to just learn how to live with the fact. Similarly to learning how to live with just key locks. I mean, keys from my door. Every day when I leave my home, I just lock my doors. That's something I got used to. Some people got used to securing with alarm systems, and 300 years ago or 1,000 years ago, people were not used to it. So people just have to get used to the new facts of life.
Yeah. It seems to me that countries such as Israel pay a huge attention to cybersecurity from the offensive and defensive perspective. Other countries such as the United States, but what about European Union? Do you think that governments are coordinated and taking the right measures to protect the space?
I would say it's getting better, but definitely far from what Israel is experiencing and has to deal with, obviously. It's getting better, but still a long way to go. But I mean, if you look at Central Europe, for example, there are quite a few security companies coming out of Europe that would be called unicorns in the current understanding of the term. So it's AVG, Avast, ESET, just from the Central Europe. Then you have a number of other security companies coming out of Central Europe. You have a number of security companies coming from Israel, from the UK, lots of security in Romania, Bulgaria, so lots of security coming out of Europe. The governments are only starting to realize that with exceptions, obviously.
I think that part of the problem that we had is that up until not so long ago, everyone thought that cybersecurity warfare is only between countries, and now we see that it's behind that. There's sometimes state-sponsored activity, like I think we saw starting 2008 with Georgia being brought to their knees for 2 weeks. Everything was shut down, allegedly because Russian hackers. And we can also guess it after what happened with Sony. Suddenly, North Korea, the cellular network were shut down for 3 days. How we can imagine that a state was involved in that, maybe United States, maybe not, but this is going from the state level to the companies level. We see that in telecom companies, we see that with banks, critical infrastructure companies. Everyone is getting hacked, from JP Morgan to the very known example of Target, and CEOs are starting to pay the price of not being safe.
The consequences. We'll talk later about cybersecurity as a competitive advantage for nations and companies, but before that, I would like you to introduce you to Pablo de la Riva. Pablo is the founder, Pablo de la Riva Ferrazuela is the founder of Buguroo Offensive Security. Are you in the offensive industry? Because it used to be a monopoly for governments, but I mean, claiming to be in the offensive side of cybersecurity. Can you explain us what you mean?
Okay, we are not in the offensive part of the security, unfortunately, because they move much more money than the regular companies. It's the second area more profitable in the world, the cybercrime. The cybercrime moves more money than the weapons and the drugs together. It's just followed by the sex. And there are very big teams of researchers working in innovation to develop new kind of attacks. And there are groups bigger than my company investigating just in one kind of attacks. And we are trying to do completely the opposite. We are trying to offer security measures for the rest of the companies to get protected about the attacks that that kind of researchers are performing. And it's an amazing challenge. It's really difficult, but at the same time, it's our passion. So it's an area, it's a sector which is very motivating for the people that love security, like me and my team. So it's an exciting moment in the security, because with the new devices, there are new risks. Right now, there are mainly the majority of the risks surrounded in e-commerce, in banks, etc. Because in the black market, you can sell, for example, credit cards for $5. Each day, there are more or less 75,000 of people that is getting hacked. So the amount of money that it moves is really amazing. And if you add the wearables, the glasses, the security cameras in your home, the new application to be always connected to understand if you are having problems in your healthy, etc. In 5 years or in 7 years, there is going to be 4 devices per people in the world. So it will appear a lot of new threats, and our work is try to be always updated to understand that kind of threats and offer security measures for the people.
Pablo, is cybersecurity about technology, or is it also about human factor?
Well, both. In the past, it's just a technology thing, because the easy way to try to steal is just attack the companies. But right now, it's easier to attack the people, because if you attack a company, the majority of the companies already have a lot of security measures. They have firewalls, IDS, and some devices, but that maybe sometimes are not enough to avoid attack, but at least you have some traces to identify if they are under attack, etc. But the majority of the people in their homes, they don't have enough security measures. So if you want to steal the money, for example, for a bank, all the users, or the majority of the people in the world, have their money in banks. If you attack all the people, you are at the same time having the credentials and the credit cards of the banks, but attacking to to the users, which is easier. Sometimes the attacks against the users are pretty simple. Just one link, just one binary, that if you open, saying, for example, this is our new photograph together, etc. If you open it, can be a malware campaign and your data can be stolen. So I think right now it's easier to steal the data and the money from users. So it's a human question.
I would add to that when we talk about cybersecurity, we usually think of firewalls and antivirus and new technologies like the one Pablo is talking about, but we should remember that 90% of the companies around the world that being hacked, the danger is coming mostly from the human factor, their workers in the companies. So it's either because workers are not educated enough and do not know how to behave properly and to defend the systems, or either because sometimes we also have people that are working against the company and they are doing stuff that will hurt the company and will cause a loss of information. So I will put that as the #1 factor for us to educate people even before we go and buy new technology. This will give us the 90% defense before we build the fence of new technology and leave the door open for the human factor.
So we may have the best hardware and software, the most sophisticated technology, and being hacked?
Completely right. So you see Target had 2 FireEye systems. Everyone cost $1.6 million. They had 2 alerts. They overlooked it. Why? Human factor. 30,000 alerts per day. You don't know how to deal with it. The guys just said, hey, it's probably another false alarm. They overlooked it, and this is what happened. 70 million credit cards were stolen.
So actually it is like logic security. Same
Completely
thing.
the same.
You may have the tallest and the strongest walls, but...
Yeah, you can put alarm, and if you put your password on the door, then it doesn't matter, because the thief will know how to get in. But if you will educate the people and let them know what are the dangers and how to behave properly, you are downsizing the risk for 10% maybe.
So Pablo, you're working with corporations every day. Do they understand this? I mean, beyond investing in technology, hardware, software, sophisticated systems, they train people to understand what cybersecurity about? And
yeah, the majority of the companies right now, they already have an internal security team to be aware about that kind of stuff. And of course, there are some sectors that are more mature than others, but the majority of the companies already have a lot of security measures. Each time, we need to offer them new kind of protection, because each day is appearing continuously new kind of threat, and you need to invest more in security. But the majority of the companies, at least, they have conscience about the problem.
Óscar, welcome.
Thank you.
Óscar Martinez is a specialist in e-commerce and e-payments, and he helps companies to prevent fraud, precisely coming from transactions down
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
electronic transactions. So how big is the fraud? Is such a big issue
Well,
for
the
companies?
fraud, if we are talking about e-commerce, online payments is one of the sectors in which the fraud is increasing considerably. In some other sectors, like card present payments, fraud is decreasing, but in terms of figures, if we talk about, for instance, what happened last year, the fraud increase in card not present transactions over 20%. So online fraud is our major concern, and we are constantly evolving, trying to improve our security measures, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with a very important or very sensitive information, which is basically the payment details of our customers. So merchants are very concerned about fraud, because they cannot afford fraud, and we cannot either afford fraud, because at the end of the day, to process payments is our major business. So we are able at the moment to provide different measures that help merchants to convert sales while minimizing the risk of fraud. Because at the end of the day, what merchants are looking for is to increase sales, but obviously being saved. So that's what we do.
Yes, well, that must be difficult to balance the
It is very
measures.
difficult. It is very difficult because, as you can imagine, a merchant is willing to increase sales, but if you want to expand your business, if you want to, if you are aiming at internationalizing sales, you want to reach different markets, different trends of fraud can take place, and you need to be ready for that. So, if you apply very conservative fraud detection measures, you might be penalizing your conversion rates. So this is a very important factor to take into account. So we are always trying to find the way to reach equilibrium between conversion rates and obviously fraud detection. So in order to do that, we have developed different security measures based on parameterizing transactions according to different criteria. Blocking criteria could be consistency checks, for instance, to block a transaction if it's coming from an IP which is not directly related to the issuing country, and things like that, you know. And the important thing is to get as many parameters as possible to be properly configured in a way that is minimizing the risk of fraud, whereas the merchant is able to expand their activity abroad, internationalize sales.
It's also important to remember that fraud is not only payments.
Yeah.
Fraud is everything considered as part as identity theft. We see it's getting to the health records. People are stealing health records because using your health record, I can impersonate, file a lawsuit, and then get money. This is also fraud. Yeah. And now it's becoming an epidemic. Specifically in the United States, we see that a lot of health records are being stolen, and a lot of money is being stolen from the insurance company. And by the time you are filing the lawsuit, it will take 60 to 90 days to get the money from the insurance, but they're only starting to check it only after 90 days, yeah. And then the hacker is not there anymore. So the money is safe in his bank, and we lost a lot of money. So it's there, it's creating new credit cards. Pablo mentioned buying credit cards online. Everything is part of fraud.
Yeah. Julio, welcome.
Thank you.
The more connected, the more exposed to cybersecurity threats. Today, most of us are connected through smartphones, maybe personal computers, tablets, but we are going fast towards a world in which we are going to be connected to everything, and everything is going to connect us, from our car to our fridge, everything. So, I mean, what's coming from the point of view of cybersecurity? How can we deal with the threats that are coming with this exponential connection?
Yes, so that Internet of Things is a big thing to come, obviously, no? And the security around that area is terribly frightening and scary. So I would say that's one of the big challenges and one of the big trends for the next years. But I was thinking, when I was coming, I was thinking, okay, so what is the last things that comes to your mind and that happened in the newspapers, that happened in the big situations in security? So I would say this year, 2015, last year was the year of the breach, they call it. There was this, well, target was 2013, which was the biggest breach ever, 150 million of identities and credit cards. But last year was JP Morgan, which is incredibly, you know, that was breached. It was the year of Forbes, there was the year of all those, they call it, I would say this year, what it's really making me really scary. I think there's a new space of risk that we are becoming aware this year. It started in this Christmas when the Sony hack happened, something that new happened that have never happened before, which is everything was hacked and was published in this deep web, this new space of kind of wild, wild west, where everybody can, with total anonymity, publish whatever they want, and it's going to be read by anybody in the world. So Sony, you know, there was these movies, they were published, there was all the full 5 years emails of the CEO was published. That never happened before. That lands a new enormous quantity of liabilities, threats, situations that we never seen before. Now we've seen Ashley Madison, which has been horrible and terrible and it's really scary. You know? So then there was this hacking team in, which is an offensive security company like Pablo's.
They are not offensive security. They are doing real offensive work. A hacking team is a company that manufactures malware in order to sell it to governments to retract information from their other governments.
So that was, but again, all that information was published in the deep web. So that's, so then we saw the CNI in Spain, the police in Spain and around the world with their contracts buying those. And so, that was an incredible new whole of liabilities, problems, situations, and then we have Ashley Madison, which is, I guess, what is the big thing, in the recent big thing, which we saw a company get bankrupt. That was $1 billion company. Not only got bankrupt, but also I think the guy is going to go to jail, most probably, because, again, all the information was published in the web. So we could see how the guy was creating this bot woman and creating this fraud, which is absolutely illegal fraud on the. So that is what I would say. This is the year of the deep web, of the dark web, no? And that's a kind of a new wild, wild west, no rules, and it's absolutely scary because nobody can. We don't know how to treat that, how to defend. But basically, anybody, whenever they want, they can expose whatever they want with complete anonymity, no? Which creates a whole wall of situations. I'm waiting for Ashley Madison. Because right now we're investigating that space in the bank tax haven surroundings, context. I think we'll see that this year, most probably. And there's lots of disinformation being served in those circles. And we are waiting for, I don't know, a lawyer's email being published with, imagine only a single lawyer having 5 years of emails, contracts, all the names, all the situations, all the negotiations, all the confidential thing, all the tricks, that the incredible amount of mess. Remember that Ashley Madison brought us people suiciding, people getting bankrupt, people getting divorced, people getting bankrupt. They lost their credibility, losing their. So it's an incredible new wall of threats and situations that we've never seen before. No? And that is also fueling a lot of what you're talking about. So, for example, we're seeing these identities being stolen, sold, and this spear phishing market being booming. In fact, in the last month, I had 2 situations with spear phishing. I have my bank in the US. They sent me an email and said, hey, be careful, because we're seeing people simulating that it's your colleague. They get all this information about your colleagues. They write you an email telling, hey, Julio, how was the golf game yesterday? Wow, that was fun, man. Give me the password or send me. So I have a friend here in Spain, 2 weeks ago. He received this kind of an email, and he said, send me $4,000 or $5,000, euros to Vietnam or something. And the guy did it because he was his boss telling him to. So this is just talking about things that I'm seeing recent, no? The things that are happening right now. And just to finish, as you were saying, now in the black market, an identity is 50 times more expensive than a credit card, and that says a lot. And the reason is that the credit card is direct money. So how could it be? No? So the reason is that the fraud detection is already pretty mature. The fraud technology for that. But the identity, nobody has any ability to control. So if you get an identity, you can probably milk it almost for 1 year, no? And that gives you probably a lot of time to do thousands of dollars, which a credit card is maybe hours, no? The time that you have for.
It is important to say that attacks today are becoming even more effective and more complicated and more smart. I met a customer last week in the United States. They were in the middle of an M&A. So imagine, this is the most confidential process with companies. So the hacker waited Probably he hacked the email. He waited for the right time, and when they were about to close the deal, after they agreed, he sent an email to the CTO coming from the CEO telling him, hey, send $30 million to pay them because we agreed. And he sent the money because he knew they agreed. So they lost $30 million. So it was right in the right moment. So you need to understand everything that is going on, and the hackers are becoming more and more smart, more and more effective in the way that they are acting, because they're hacking everything that we are doing.
Yeah. I think there is one more aspect.
I'm going to sit with Jaime. You guys are scaring me. I'm going to sit with Jaime for a while. So tell me about that, about the, I mean, how cybersecurity and being safe is going to make the difference for companies and nations also, but for companies. I mean, is there going to be any difference when you, let's say, do business with a company in the United States or European country if you are not safe? Starting with...
So I think, honestly, what you mentioned, these were fine examples of human error, human mistakes, but then the cyber security or security experts have a very tough job securing systems that are not being very popular, not very... The security experts actually very often are not very popular within companies. I mean, how many people here use Google at all for email? Probably most of you. How many of you are aware of dual factor authentication? And how many use it? See, it's not very convenient. It introduces something that may be bothersome, that is just not easy to do. Like with your car, you want to come to your car, just open it, these keyless systems, very convenient, that's fine. And then you're surprised that somebody can get into it. It's just computer system. Similarly, somebody can get into your email because you're not securing it properly. You're not logging off, you're not logging on properly, etc., etc. So it's not only about cybersecurity experts or security systems. The experts are actually doing their best what they can by introducing new methods for prevention and detection and remediation of attacks. But it's people who are then, in the end, not using those systems, trying to bypass them. I mean, in banks, many people are actually using WhatsApp. There was a big issue in Israel, in the army, where a soldier, actually soldiers' parents were notified about a soldier's death, that their son was actually shot dead, not from the officials, but through WhatsApp, because somebody used WhatsApp. It's just not appropriate to use WhatsApp. It's similarly not appropriate to use WhatsApp in a banking environment. A CFO should not be exchanging sensitive data with her CEO, but they do. So it's a very, very balancing act of convenience versus security, and that's not very easy. So no matter what we do, it's going to be difficult. And vendors with new products actually have to look at security, they have to implement security, and at the same time, their product people, their salespeople are telling them, hey, make it as easy to use as possible. So forget this security feature, forget that security feature, make it as easy as possible. Home cameras, security systems, baby monitors, etc. Make it easy. And then people are surprised that somebody can hack into their pictures and private data. So it's also about educating, getting back to what you said, educating people in companies, but also about educating general public, pretty much.
I think to add on that, to your question, Juanjo, how important is cybersecurity for companies? I think that many companies are starting to understand, mainly in the United States, that cybersecurity for the company is not only a necessity, a liability, but it's also an investment to get a competitive advantage in front of other companies around the world. And we see nowadays companies who invest in other companies, making them go under cybersecurity audit before they will invest, because they don't want to share the liability of investing money in a company that will have cybersecurity problems in the future and can be sued by customers who their customer records were stolen. We see huge companies such as the one that we see in Spain. We see huge infrastructure, critical infrastructure companies such as telcos, banks, big construction companies that are doing multinational projects, building railways, building buildings, big projects, are having problem connecting with companies in the United States just from the pure reason that they are not safe enough to be connected with. We learned that Lockheed Martin were hacked 2.5 years ago through the system, the CRM system, that they used to connect with one of their subcontractors. This is something that is becoming very important to companies. If I'm going to work with you and I'm going to exchange information with you, I need to understand that your company is safe. I need to understand that you are doing everything you can before I'm giving you my customers' identities. This is very important, and companies are losing bids because of that. And we see the same with governments. We see governments are not able to behave as a safe harbor when you come to a connection between countries and connection between countries and companies. And this whole system is a spiral who is giving a lot of headache to CEOs nowadays, and not only saying, hey, CIO will take care of cybersecurity. It's not like that anymore. The CEO knows that it's his problem, and this is a competitive advantage that he can gain from investing in it.
So Pablo, what is your experience? You run a cybersecurity service company. Do you feel that your customers understand what's going on and that cybersecurity could make the difference?
I think they are understanding what is the problem, but like all the companies, they have some limitation in the budget. So they are investing each year more, and they are continuously adding new security measures. And I think one of the most important things in this area is continually improving the security measures that we are offering, because the kind of threat each day are getting new. And but I think the big companies, at least, not medium or low, they are not conscious about it. But at least large companies, they already know what is the problem, and they are investing on it. We need also investment in the software companies, which are continuously developing new kind of security measures to be offered to the big companies and the medium and the low companies.
So, Óscar, there are probably 100 entrepreneurs thinking or trying to launch an e-commerce platform here at the summit. And are they aware enough of what's going on with cybersecurity, and that the problem with fraud could just ruin all the efforts they have been doing?
Well, I would think so, yeah, because, I mean, security can be one of the major concerns. We are talking about the most sensible part, which is processing payments, selling things and then processing payments. My understanding is that, well, the average market knows the importance of being safe, and that's why they always rely on third parties, which are specialists in payments, and in a way to be able to get a liability shift in this responsibility. Because in order to be able to process payments, you need to accomplish certain regulations. For instance, in the European community, you must be PCI level 1, which is related to the ability of being absolutely secure at the time of processing payments or even storing the cards. So that is one of the things which are in every single merchant, in merchant minds, because at the end of the day, I mean, a product cannot be sold if you're not able to accept payments. They know that this is a very important factor. And for us, security is our major concern. If we are not able to provide this kind of sense of confidence, we are basically killed. We are lost. So that's why we are constantly evolving, investing not only money, but also knowledge to be able to provide a technology which is compliant, with the market needs, and also able to provide the ability of merchants to sell more. Because as I said before, this is very important. There must be, as you said, a very an equilibrium between selling and being safe. And this is one of the things we always take into account.
Do any of you like to ask a question? To the panelists? Come.
Hello. I would like to ask about government. Like, Catalonian government is selling the healthcare information for all the Catalan citizens to a company. And I don't know, what do you think about taking data for simple... You cannot... Loader, yeah? Yep. I will try. I like to ask that, I mean, Catalonian government is selling healthcare information about citizens. I would like to know, what do you think about it? Because the government can sell your data and you have given any permission at all? Is that right? And who will buy that information? And what we will do with all that data? Yeah?
Julio, do you like to answer that?
Yeah, so Catalonian government is selling health information.
Health information, yeah.
Catalonian government?
She's afraid of that.
Ah, she's afraid. Oh, wow. Well, so you know, in Spain we have regulations which is called data privacy regulations. Under the e-privacy regulation in Europe is called LOPD. So that is absolutely against the LOPD. So that would be very, very surprising for.
It's supposed to be anonymous information.
Anonymous information.
But you are not sure because, I mean, what is cybersecurity? Are you sure that it's anonymous that? You can then mix information with Facebook profile, email address, and all that, and you got who is. And I mean, we are exposed on the on and off line.
Well, I guess it is statistical information or something like that. But yeah, so you have to check that process. But you have that LOPD regulations in Spain and in Europe. What you don't have in Spain is good as you have in the US. You have the HIPAA, which is a very strong health regulation that includes not only the data privacy aspects, but many other aspects, including technical aspects such as PCI. You know? So that's something that I think we're missing in Spain. I'm really surprised in all the health environment how low the security measures and the culture is. That's pretty amazing if you compare it to US or other countries. But yeah. So.
That is a very important issue. I mean, there are some companies keeping even our genetic map. So, and that has a price, as we all know, and maybe someone looking for it and willing to buy it. Okay, let me, is there any other question? You.
We have a lot of problem of appealing of security. That is a field that people see like very burden. So how, as experts, can we make it more sexy to people?
Any of you?
You want to have a sexy defense, cybersecurity
no,
defense?
I want people to understand that cybersecurity is fun to do it.
I think cybersecurity is very fun. Look at my face, I'm smiling all the time. So I think it's fun.
He's thinking of his former job, actually.
It's actually very sexy.
No, but I do too. But look, the FinTech conferences was full, and this is not.
This is because they are scared, and it's good. We want them to be scared so they can practice cybersecurity. But I think that the reason is that we should look at it in the right way, is that we should understand that there is a solution to all the problems that we are talking about. And the solution is just behavior. The way that we behave will dictate the amount of danger that we are experiencing in our private life, in our e-commerce platform, in our connection to our workplace, between big companies, in the nation state. Everything is about behavior. You can see politicians exchanging very important information via WhatsApp. And everyone knows that WhatsApp is out there in the open. It's very easy to hack. It's not by hacking WhatsApp specifically. It's by hacking the cell phone, you can open everything. You asked the question about the health records. It's not only about the health record, it's about our records. I don't know how many of you used a headhunter or an HR company in the past. Maybe you applied for a job and someone asked you to fill up a questionnaire about your life. How safe is that? Everyone thinks that the HR company is not a place to look for cybersecurity, but what there's to steal? Our identities. This is becoming the most important thing for us to take care of, is our identity, because if I get a hold of the information, your private information, I can do whatever I like. I can impersonate, I can get a new credit card, I can open a bank account, I can buy a car, I can do many things that is part of the fraud that you were talking about before, but these are only small dangers in a world of huge dangers, and everything will be solved by good behavior. So we need to educate ourselves and to try to behave like that, not only at work, but also in our personal life.
Personal responsibility, that's really key.
Okay, next question.
Hi. I would like to ask you, how much of a technological advantage is the geographical location of your company in a world of global politics and conflicts? I mean, is the technological advantage to be located in Spain in a world of possible backdoors and stuff?
I mean, as a startup?
Yeah, as a cybersecurity startup.
So, building technology, you mean?
Yeah.
Building technology, or not being attacked, but building technology.
Hello, yeah? As a producer of a cybersecurity solution.
So, if I may add to that, because we started a company that was based in Central Europe and became global, and I invested in companies that were based in the US and then expanding to Europe and vice versa. I think nowadays the perception in Europe, especially France, Germany, is that they do not want to buy from the US and from Israel very often.
Exactly.
And it's perception issue. For good or bad, it's perception issue. So from that perspective, you're well off producing something security related, being based in Europe, in Spain, when you want to sell in Europe. But going forward, I think this is a short-term issue only, and it's just, you have to have global ambitions, and I think you would have difficulties if you're based in North Korea, but other than that, or China maybe for that matter, other than that, I think if your ambitions are global, then it's pretty much equal.
So as a short follow-up, so can my ambitions be global if I'm in a world of cybersecurity?
Absolutely, absolutely. You should shoot for the moon.
We have just 15 minutes left. No, I'm just kidding. Please, a big hand to these guys. Come on, thank you very much.